Ladies and gentlemen, we have so far covered 18 states, and I understand that 6 states are actually waiting to present. But perhaps at this stage, we should take a break of 1 hour and then come back and take the 6 states. By that time, I'm sure many more states would have arrived. Thank you. We take a break. We reconvene at 2 p.m. Thank you. Sorry, it's, it's already 2 p.m. So let's reconvene at 3 o'clock. Let's take 1 hour break. I reconvene at 3 o'clock to take the 6 states. Thank you.
So there you see 6 states, the results have just been declared. The first 3, Niger, Jigawa, Kaduna, going the way of the APC, and the others, Anambra, Oyo, Adamawa, going the way of the PDP. But a very interesting incident in terms of some of the issues raised about the challenges faced in some of those states that we've just heard the results, ranging from card reader malfunction, ballot box snatching, violence, which some said was eventually brought under control, polling units that were affected. Prof. Shubali, how significant would you say some of these challenges are in terms of the effect it had on voters and the results?
Indeed, they are very significant. One would have expected that by now, INEC should have risen above some of these challenges. But given the terrain that we have in Nigeria, given the attitude of the people, and also the level of confidence that INEC management ought to have had on the lower rung of its staff, one cannot but expect some of the things that we have witnessed. For instance, even in spite of the threat by the president that anybody who snatched ballot box or did something to jeopardize the election will be shot. That still seemed not to have deterred those hoodlums. And that consequence could be traced to the fact that those who had done it in the past, even when they were caught, they were never punished. So there's no consequence for misbehavior. And that has encouraged those who were hell-bent on rigging or winning by all means to get cannon fodders, who, of course, are not their children or their relations, to go and committed these atrocities. The consequence of these things is that it is likely to engender voter apathy. Okay, many people are not likely to be so interested, so keen in going to vote. Again, the fact that violence is still a part of our election process is a serious enough deterrent for those who might naturally want to exercise their franchise and vote people of their choice into positions of power. Okay. Then the fact that people realize that in Nigeria, even when a law is made, it is made for certain categories of people. It's not there. It doesn't. Our laws do not have general applicability. That's one. Two. Even where it has the limited applicability, it's only for a while. Make a law today, 2-3 weeks after, it's as if people have forgotten it. Okay, yes. And then it will be business as usual. So these things are going to seriously affect those who would want to go out and vote. It will discourage many people. And many people would not want to expose themselves to the risk of going to vote and getting hit by crossfire. Okay. I just, let me give you an example of my own family. During the crisis of Abiola's annulment of his
June 12th.
Yes, June 12th victory. My wife was one morning was blaming almost everybody that people were cowards, and I said, "Okay, madam, we live very close to Ikorodu Road," and I said, "Okay." Tomorrow morning, I will wake our children. I will get used tires, so they'll go and make bonfire on the Ikorodu Road. And I said, my children, no. I said, okay, don't worry. I will go. I will lead them. They say, you? I know you are not. If the children will not go, I will not go. Then who will go? And, that's an example of the way we reason and the way we react. Nobody really wants to sacrifice anything. The feeling amongst many people is that Nigeria is not worth dying for. And if Nigeria is not worth dying for, then Nigeria is not worth living in. But we must live here, and so we must make sacrifice.
Is that what's playing out?
We need to just remind our viewers that the results that you've seen, even the breakdown, the total valid vote cast, and all of this other breakdown, you can find them on our website, channelstv.com.
Yes, Professor Oyewade, of particular interest is the results that came through from Kaduna State. This is a state that has been known for skirmishes, if you will. The Shiites, for instance.
Yes.
And then the Southern Kaduna incident, and very lately 2 attacks in some village also there in Southern Kaduna. But these are the figures that we're having with the APC in the lead by about, say, 300,000 votes. What do you think about it?
Well, I think we must come to terms with certain areas that repeatedly now indicating their political preference. I used to hear that President Muhammadu Buhari is a folk hero in the northern part of the country. And we thought he must have met his match with Atiku, but not necessarily so. You're talking of Kaduna. What of the home state, the homestead of Abubakar Atiku in Adamawa? The margin was not too wide. Kaduna, I'm not surprised because of El-Rufai's hold on that state, despite the skirmishes that you refer to. Southern Kaduna is a trouble spot, it's a flashpoint. But in the rest of the state, and then you mentioned the Shiites, you know, Zaria, Elzak, Zaki, and what have you. But I think now the state is faced with a choice between, well, nominally two Fulani Muslims. And it's a question of my Mercedes is bigger than yours. So I'm not too surprised that President Buhari carried the day in Kaduna. But we are just halfway through. It's too early in the day to make any projections as to who is going to win ultimately. If you do the counting, the 18 states results declared, you would think that President Buhari is in the upswing, but not so fast, okay? Because there are still critical areas that we want to look into. Katsina, the home state of President Buhari. Then Kano, which again is a bastion of support for President Buhari. What of Rivers? Okay, so there are still results being expected. But I agree with Idowu Shobawale here. He's a professor of precision journalism. At least that's what he used to teach when we were in Unilag together. So as a journalist, he observed things, and I believe we are benefiting from his skill in terms of journalists looking at perception and the way things, you know, are fleshing out. But I will say that we'll see how things shape up, because we hear that the PDP might not be too enthused by the results as they are. But I would say it's in good sportsmanship attitude. You accept the winner has declared instead of blaming the referee. And I believe the fact that INEC was blamed by the two leading parties before these elections indicates some even-handedness among INEC, because Professor Yakubu was not the favorite of either of the candidates. They gave INEC and the chair and the members hell, but they survived through the claims and counterclaims of the two parties. It's reminiscent of what happened under the chairmanship of my friend Atahiru Jega, who kept his cool and stood his ground. You remember the Orubebe incident? And here we were saying who was going to play the Orubebe incident. Maybe it's too early to have a replica, but anybody might want to throw a spanner into the works. And Nigerians will not be amused, okay? Because we're too far in the day, like Professor Shobawale was saying. By this time, we ought to have made greater progress in these results. Today is Tuesday. The elections were held on Saturday. But for me, that betrays the level of development or lack of it in the country in terms of technology, in terms of the totality of Nigeria. We can't compare apples and oranges. Senegal is a small kettle of fish when you are talking of a country of this diversity and of this population. Technologically, Nigeria has made some progress, but we have to go the whole hog so that we won't spend an entire lifetime in TV studios expecting results to be declared. In fact, we are giving room for all manner of comments by the international community. And I notice our political actors have an overly large reliance calling on the international community to step in to help them in terms of what they see as a failing situation. So I would plead that Nigerians should keep hope alive. We are not there yet. That's the truth. And like the chairman of INEC himself said, after these elections, there has to be auditing, there has to be some conversation as to how to make our electoral process better.
Professor Shubale, one of the things that, well, before we came back on air, you also alluded to was the issue of rejected votes, the volume, cumulative number of rejected votes, cancelled votes, and the number of people it's likely to affect. How do you think that can affect the final, figures significantly?
Well, for those people who might be interested in closer analysis of the election results, they will see that there's indeed a serious gap between the figures that we are having and the figures that we ought to have had, okay? Because the rejected statistics or figures are different from the cancelled figures. So when you add the two together, they come to a chunk, okay? And when you look at the resources that have gone into these elections, then you see that we really have not gained much. Because by now, we ought to be having a greater percentage of success in terms of the number of votes in relation to the number of valid or accredited candidates or voters. That is not happening. Then we ought to minimize our loss when it comes to people filling the ballot papers. And that goes back to the voter education that we talked about earlier on. We have to do a serious job of that before we can begin to derive full benefits from our investments in terms of finance, in terms of effort, and in terms of perception. Okay? Because until we are able to be sure that we reduce those who are disenfranchised to a minimum, then we could not be saying that we have achieved anything.
I do know that in some of the amendments, particularly the Electoral Act, even the one that wasn't eventually signed into law, there were issues raised which that act was supposed to have solved. For instance, ballot box snatching, and then we know the application of the margin of lead principle addresses some of those issues either before the results are announced or after the results are announced and ballot box was snatched or violence breaks out. But when it had to do, or it has to do with card readers not functioning as a result of network, what do you do about that? Because nothing was said about it at the end of the Electoral Act or the amendments.
Okay, well, in Nigeria, you should expect that. Even within the cities, okay? It's not everywhere, even when you have internet in your house, it's not every time that you get it to use. I mean, you've paid for supply of internet, then you still have to charge, I mean, what's the language that they use? Your phone, you have to still put data on it, okay, so that if the one in the house I mean, fails, and it does fail every now and again.
Backup internet.
Yes, so you have to fall back on that. So, and I mean, not talking of my village, where people, thank goodness, they now have telephone that they can use to call people. But if you are expecting internet in those places, I think we are not there yet, because the internet companies are not going to recoup their investments as quickly as when they're in the city.
But the thing, the other side to this is, this could happen, and it could be a deciding factor in the elections at some point. Because if we have candidates who are running neck and neck, and then network fails in some areas, and this was significant, this will give us a huge challenge.
Well, you are right, but I think what would have to happen is that INEC would take that as part of the auditing that they want to do. They should have an idea of how many places such an experience existed during this past, this exercise, and what to do. Perhaps they would need to modify the equipment that they would need to use. Instead of being digital, perhaps mechanical or something, But we just must produce.
Because what INEC said is that they actually improved on the process and even the devices, that they had an upgrade of the devices, and that the card readers will not necessarily be using the networks this time, but will be using the Trier technology, which is a satellite-based technology. So one would have expected